Hello students, welcome back. This side Pushpen Singh Rajawat and I have welcome you all in the lecture number first of the chapter metals and non-metals of class 8. So students, what we are going to study in this chapter we are going to see these are for the lectures, and for this chapter we will be seeing here that is the properties of the metals and the non-metals, that is their physical, their chemical properties. Apart from that students, we are going to see some of the reactions here, and apart from that also students, we are going to see that the metals and non-metals are going to form the bond, that is the bond which is present between the metals and non-metals. And what kind of bond is present between the metals and non-metals? That is the ionic bonds. So these are not given in the class 8 syllabus, but we are going to study them here because of the deep knowledge. So that will be the basic clear understanding to you, that is the metals and non-metals are going to form, or when they react together they are going to form the bond which is termed as the ionic bond. So simply writing here the contents for this whole chapter. So first here the name, that is the metal and non-metals. Now here the first topic is what? That is the properties of metals and non-metals. So in this property students, we will be dealing with what? That is the physical properties, and the second will be what? The second will be the chemical properties of both metals and the non-metals. So in these students, from this point, this is important, that is in the physical properties the exceptions are important, that is we cannot classify that we have hello. That is from this topic students, we from this topic students, the exceptions are important because we have classified the elements based on the chemical properties at the metals and the non-metals. So here this part is the most important, while here in this part the exceptions are important. Now apart from that, the second important topic that we'll be covering here in this chapter is the type of bond. So here the ionic bond and its properties we are going to see here. Now after reading the ionic bond and its properties, we'll be dealing here with the corrosion, that is the metals corrode with that when the atmospheric gases react with them. So in the presence of the atmospheric gases, the metal is going to corrode. So here we'll be seeing here the corrosion and alloys. Now the last topic is what? The last topic will be the uses of some metals and some non-metals. So that is generally because they have been asked in the examinations, and some uses are also important. So here we'll be dealing with what? That is the uses of metals and non-metals. Now students, these are the overview of the chapter number 2 of class 8, that is the metals and non-metals, where these parts are important. And when we are going to see here this topic, that is the chemical properties of the metals and non-metals, in which the most important or the core of this chapter lies in the reactivity series. So here the reactivity series of metals would be of the much importance. So remember this point students, we are going here dealing with what? Here we will be dealing and completing all these topics in this particular chapter, where I think it is going to require almost 6 lectures. So these whole topics will be covered, in which we will be dealing the chemical reactions in detail, where we are going to see the reactivity series and its utilization, that how can we utilize this reactivity series, because in the class 10 students we will be dealing with the metallurgy. So in the metallurgical processes, we are going to use this reactivity series in the extraction of the metals. So now students, let us move back and see over here the content for the today's lecture. So in the today's lecture students, we are going to study about, that is The first, that is the position of the metals and non-metals in the periodic table. So what is the periodic table, students? Periodic table, you have already seen that if we talk about the chemistry, the first word or the first thing that comes in our mind is the periodic table. So that arrangement gives me about the periodic table. So here we are seeing it with them also, and here after that we are going to move into, that is the general properties of the metals and non-metals, in which we will be dealing with the physical properties of the metals and non-metals. So now students, moving back in the second slide and see here, that is the introduction that I have already told you about this, that out of the 118 elements, the elements are arranged and given a specific place in the periodic table. So out of them, many are classified as the metals, many of them are classified as the non-metals, and some of them are even classified as the metalloids. But talking about the metals, they form the vast variety of the elements, that is the number of metals that are present in the periodic table are very large in number in comparison to the metalloids and in comparison to the non-metals. So first, the large number of elements, if we arrange the elements in the order of the number, that is the first number is given to the metals, the second number is given to the non-metals, and the third number is given to the metalloids, because metals are very large in quantity while the non-metals are somewhat smaller, and the metalloids are very countable, that is the boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, and polonium. These are what? These are some of the metalloids that we can count on the fingers. So students, we have arranged all the elements, that is all the 118 elements that are known to us, depending upon what? Depending upon their chemical properties, not on their physical properties, because when we are going to see the physical properties, you will be seeing that there are many exceptions in the physical properties, but the chemical properties may not be having any exceptions. So now students, let us see over here the first, that is the position of the metal and the non-metals in the periodic table. So here, this is what? This is the left part of the periodic table, and this is the right part of the periodic table. And here you can see that in this part, what are present? The metals are present, and here you can see a zigzag line which separates what? Which separates the metals from the non-metals. So here in this part, you will be having what? You will be having the non-metals. So here you can see this zigzag line is present, and here in this zigzag line some of the elements are also present. So these elements are what? These elements are simply termed as the metalloids. Here the metalloids are name which is given to these elements, that is the boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, and the polonium. In some of the books, the polonium is not considered as the metalloid, while in some books it is considered as the metalloid. So here you can see these are what? These are the F block elements. They are also what? They are also the metals. They are placed in the group number third. This is the group number third. So there is an lanthanoid, and these are what? These are the actinoids. So these are what? They comes under the category of the metals also. Now students, let us move over here and see the vast classification. So here you can see this is what? This is a hydrogen which comes under the category of the non-metal. So this is the first non-metal that we can see over here. The boron is what? This is a metalloid. Boron, silicon, arsenic, germanium, silicon, antimony, tellurium, and the polonium. These are what? These are the metalloids that we first mark them here. So this is what? This is a metalloid, this is metalloid, this is a metalloid, this is a metalloid, and this is also a metalloid. So you can see here these are what? These all are the metals, while here which is placed over here, these are what? These are the non-metals. So first of all, there are large number of non-metals, so we can simply count the non-metals which are present over here. So helium is a non-metal, this is neon, this is argon, krypton, xenon, radon, and organism, that is the 118th element which is having the symbol that is UuO. So these are what? These are the non-metals. So these are the noble gases. As you have remember, we have studied this in the chapter number 2. Apart from that, the fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and astatine, they also comes under the category of the non-metals. Carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, phosphorus, selenium, they are what also? They are also the non-metals. And also there is another non-metal which is a hydrogen. So we can also count the non-metals, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So there are almost 19 non-metals that are present in the periodic table. Talking about the metalloids, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. metalloids are present in the periodic table, and rest, that is the remaining out of the 118 are what? Remaining out of the 118, that is 118 minus the number of non-metals and the number of metalloids, they are what? They are the metals. So you can see in the periodic table the vast variety is of the metals that we see in our daily life. So only some of the metals we see in our class 10th, while there are many other metals and their applications that we do not know, but we are still using them in our daily life. So now students, let us see here, that is the general properties of the metals and the non-metals. So the general properties of the metals and non-metals, it includes what? That is the physical properties of the metals and non-metals. The second is the electronic configuration of the metals and non-metals. This you have seen in the class 9, but where we have not classified the elements as the metals and the non-metals. We have seen simply the electronic configuration of the elements, that is either they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7, 8 electrons in their outermost shell. Now, apart from that, first we are going to see the electronic configuration, and depending upon the electronic configuration, we will be dealing with what? That is the chemical properties of the metals and the non-metals. So let us first start with the physical properties of the metals and non-metals. So talking about the physical properties, students, here let us see, that is the properties, that is the state, luster, melting point, boiling point, density, malleability, ductility. So these are what? And also the sonority, these are what? These are the physical properties on which we have classified the metals and the non-metals. There are many exceptions in these, because the physical properties of classifying elements is not the exact criteria. The very exact and the accurate criteria of defining and classifying the elements into metals and the non-metals is the chemical properties, which is mainly dependent upon the electronic configuration of the elements. So here students, you can see, talking about the state. So the metals are what? Metals are the solid, that is they exist in the solid state at the room temperature. So here we have an exception, that is the mercury, having the formula of Hg. It is a liquid at the ordinary temperature. So remember students, that mercury is the only metal that exists in what? That exists in the liquid state at the room temperature. Now talking about the state of the non-metal. So the non-metal exists either in the solid state or in the gases or the gaseous state at the room temperature. Here we have seen an exception, that is bromine is what? Bromine is an exception. Why bromine is an exception, students? Because bromine is a liquid. So the bromine exists in the liquid state at the room temperature. So here we have an exception in the metals, that is the mercury, which exists in the liquid form and it is a metal. While talking about the non-metal, we have a bromine which exists also in the liquid form, but this is what? This is a non-metal. Now moving to the second point, that is the luster. So what is the luster? That is the shining property. So the metals are generally lustrous, that is they have a shining surface and can be polished. You can see, that is the gold, silver, copper, they have what? They have the metallic luster and can be polished. Now talking about the non-metals, the non-metals do not have the luster, that is they do not shine. Here you can see the sulfur, phosphorus, these are the non-metals that are dull in nature. Now it is having an exception, that is iodine. Iodine is what? Iodine has a lustrous property. So remember students, that is in the luster part we have a exception, that is the iodine in the non-metal, it is having what? It is having a lustrous properties, while the non-metals are having the properties of non-lustrous. So moving into the second point, that is the boiling and the melting point. So you all know that the wires are made up of what? That is a metal, because the metals are the good conductor of the heat and electricity and they have the high melting and the boiling point. So the metals are generally high melting and boiling points. You can see here the melting point of iron is what? That is 1535 degrees Celsius, which is very quite high. Now it is also having some of the exceptions. So these exceptions are given, that is sodium, potassium and gallium have the low melting points. Their melting points are so less than the 100 degrees Celsius. Now talking about the gallium, gallium is having the melting point so less than that of the melting point of iron, that if we keep the gallium metal on our hand, it's simply going to melt because of the heat from our body, because also it is having the melting point of about 29 degrees Celsius. You can see here the melting point of cesium is also what? That is 28.4 degree Celsius. So if we talk about that, these are what? These are the very low melting point which can exist for the metal. So these are the some of the exceptions that you have seen over here in the metals category. Now talking about the non-metals, non-metals have the low melting points and the boiling point. So this is obvious that if the metals are having what, that is the high melting and boiling point, so the non-metals would be having the low melting and the boiling point. But here we have the carbon and the silicon which have what, which have the high melting points and the boiling point. So these are what, these are the exceptions that comes in the category of the non-metals. Which carbon is having the high melting point? Here students, we are having the allotrope of carbon. This we are going to see in the next chapter, that is carbon and its compound. We are going to see what is the meaning of the allotrope, which allotrope of carbon is having an exceptional property. So the allotrope of carbon, which is what, which is a graphite. So graphite is what? Graphite is a non-metal that is having a very high melting point. Its melting point is higher than that of the metals, that is 3300 degrees Celsius, which is a very quite high melting point which can exist for a non-metal. Now talking about the density, so students, you all know what is density. Density is the mass per unit volume. So if you talk about the metals, metals are generally heavy and they also have higher density. So students, you can see over here this part, the metals have high density, that is they are heavy, and the density of mercury is what, that is 13.58 gram per cubic centimeter, which is a very quite high. So students, if we talk about the density, density is what, that is the mass per unit volume. Now if you don't get what is the meaning of the density, let us move over here and see what is the meaning of the density. So density is what, is equal to mass per unit volume, that is how much mass can be come or can be placed in a per unit volume, which gives me the density of that substance. Just for an example, if I'm having what, if I'm having a cube, I'm drawing here the cube, and just suppose here its length, breadth and height are simply what, that is a, this is also a, and this is also a, because here this is a cube and here the a is equals to what, that is 1 centimeter. That is, it is very small cube because 1 centimeter is almost of that size. So here if we are having a 1 centimeter cube of that size, so that is what if you are wish to find the volume. So what is the volume of this cube? That is equals to a cube, which is equals to 1 centimeter whole cube. So this comes out to be 1 cubic centimeter. So this is the volume of this cube. And just suppose this cube is hollow from inside and which is having a very dimension less boundary, that is their boundary is very thin, because we are here counting for what, that is the volume taking as the 1 cubic centimeter. So what you have supposed, you have supposed that this is a cube which is hollow from inside, and here you can see that what is present over here, the boundary. Now these are what, these are the walls of this cube, and here this wall is open for us to put something into it. Now if I'm going to put water in here, so if I'm putting the water in here and then weighing that cube in the weighing machine and talking about the mass of water that I can get here, so what would be the mass of water? The mass of water that I get over here, which should be placed in this cube up to the brim, so that would be equal to what? That would be equal to 1 gram. Now students, just take a look over here. This is what, this was the cube which was hollow from inside and it is having only one open space from where we can put something into it. So if I have put here the water, the mass of the water when it is placed on the weighing machine and subtracting the mass of the cube from the overall mass, we have get here that the mass of water is the 1 gram. So since the mass of water is 1 gram, so now if I wish to find the density, so the remember student, the symbol for density is rho. So this would be equals to what? That is the mass and volume. So here the mass is what? That is 1 gram and the volume is 1 cubic centimeter. So the density of water comes out to be what? That is 1 gram per cubic centimeter. Now students, I hope that from this example it is clear to you what is the meaning of the density. That is how much mass could be present in a per volume of a solution. Per volume means what? That is if we have taken the volume as a 1 liter, 1 ml, 1 cubic centimeter or anything else. Now moving to the next example here. Just suppose instead of the water, you have removed all the water, you have emptied this cube and you have put here the mercury. So when you have put here the mercury in this and put and make it up to the brim, that is make it full up to the brim, and now when you weighing this, you will be getting what? You will be getting the mass of mercury here, that is equals to 13.58 gram. Now if we talk about the density of mercury, so what would be the density of mercury? That is the mass which is present in a per volume of a solution. So what is the volume? Volume is 1 centimeter cube or 1 cubic centimeter, and what is the mass? That is 13.8 or 58 gram. So the density of mercury comes out to be what? The density of mercury comes out to be 13.58 gram per cubic centimeter. So this is what, students, this is the meaning of mercury. So remember students, wherever a density is written, you should be knowing what is the meaning of the density instead of just cramming the values. Now students, moving back here again and sees that the metals are what? Metals are denser, they are having the high densities. You have seen here the example of mercury, that is equals to 13.8 gram per cubic centimeter, which is a very quite high. And the most dense metal is the osmium, the second is the iridium, and the third most denser metal is the mercury. So there are exceptions also, that is sodium, potassium and calcium and magnesium. They are what? They are the lightweight metals. Why they are lightweight metals? Because they are less denser. Sodium and potassium are so light that they can float. Talking about the sodium and potassium, they are so light and they have the density very less than that of water, that if we are going to place them in the water, we cannot place the sodium and potassium in the water because sodium and potassium reacts with the water. So where do we place it? We have to place the sodium and potassium, because of their high reactivity, we have to place them in the kerosene. So they are placed in the kerosene to cut off the oxygen and the moisture supply, so that the sodium metal do not react with the H2O or oxygen. Now talking about the lithium. Lithium element is having a very low density, that is its density is very low. If we put the lithium metal in the kerosene, it simply floats over the kerosene. So we have to put the lithium metal under the paraffin wax. Now talking about the density of the non-metals, the density of the non-metal is very low, that is the non-metals have the low density, that is they are light substances. For example, the density of sulfur is what? That is 2 gram per cubic centimeter. So you can see here the 2 gram per cubic centimeter and 13.58 gram per cubic centimeter. So there is a vast difference between them. So this is what? This is a quite low. Now the density, there is also an exception in the non-metals, that is the density of the diamond, which is an allotrope of carbon. It is quite high as compared to other non-metals, which is equals to 3.51 gram per cubic centimeter. So you see that in the physical properties or classifying the elements based on their physical properties, we have some exceptions. Now see here, some metals are given over here. So these are the examples of the metals like cesium, lithium, selenium, also the gallium. You can see here the gallium which is put on the hand, it simply melts due to the heat from our body. And you can see here the metallic luster of these metals. All the metals that are present over here, they are shiny in nature. And talking about the color, you can see the metals have some typical color, that is they are simply the either grain color, either silver in color, or gray silver, silver grayish, and somewhat like that. Except for the copper and the gold, they have a different color, that is the gold is having the golden color while copper is having the copperish color, or we can say that is the brownish pink color. So while other metals are having a certain color, that is the gray or their combinations. So students, let us move into the next physical properties difference over here, that is the ductility. So what is the meaning of the ductility, students? That is when the metals are stretched, they could be drawn into wires. That is, if we are having a metal and if we want to draw the metal into wires, that could be possible when we have to pull the wire in the two opposite directions. So the metals have the ductility property, that is they do not break when we pull them and when we try to make the wire with them, and this property is termed as the ductility. So the ductility is the property of the metal due to which they can be drawn into wires without breaking. That is also important. So talking about the ductility, the metals are ductile, that is they can be drawn into thin wires. Gold and silver are what? These are the most ductile metals that you have seen here. Other examples of copper and aluminum which can be drawn into wires and can be used in the electricity wiring. So gold and silver are the costly metals, so we are not using the gold and silver in the electrical wiring. We use is what, that is the copper or the aluminum for the electrical wiring. Now talking about the non-metals, non-metals are simply non-ductile in nature. They are brittle in nature, that is when we try to stretch them or try to put some force over them, they simply break down into pieces. So they cannot be drawn into wires. Example, sulfur and phosphorus, when stretched they do not form wire and break into pieces. Now talking about the next property, that is the malleability. So what is malleability, students? So we can say the malleability is the property of metals due to which they can be drawn into thin sheets. You have seen the aluminum foil, you have seen the silver foil, golden foil that you have used in the day-to-day life. So here the malleability, that is the metals are generally malleable, that they can be beaten into thin sheets with a hammer. Remember students that this should not be broken into pieces. So silver foils are used for the decorative purposes on the sweets. And remember, gold is the most ductile and most malleable metal. Now talking about the non-metals, non-metals are simply brittle in nature, as I have just told you before. That is the non-metals are non-malleable and brittle, that is they when beaten with the hammer they break into pieces. Now talking about the next point, that is the conduction, that is the heat conduction and the electricity conduction. So metals are what, you all know students that metals are the good conductors of the heat and electricity. Talking about the non-metals, non-metals are the bad conductors of the heat and electricity. Now just reading it out, that is metals are the good conductors of heat and electricity. Silver is the best conductor of the heat and electricity, but we cannot use silver, so instead of silver we use the second best conductor of heat and electricity, that is the copper, and the third best good conductor of electricity, that is the aluminum. So here the lead is what, lead is the poorest conductor of the heat. This you need to remember because this been asked in several examinations. Metals are the good conductors of electricity also because they contains what, they contains the free electrons to conduct electricity. Students, I have already told you in the previous lectures that for the conduction of electricity two things are needed, that is either electrons or either ions. That is the electrons should be moving or migrating, or the ions should be moving or migrating. So by the migration of the ions or the movement of the ions, the electricity could be conducted, or by the movement of the ions or the migration of the electrons, the electricity could be conducted. Now talking about the conduction of the non-metals, non-metals are generally bad conductors of heat and electricity. That is the non-metals like sulfur and phosphorus, they do not conduct the heat and electricity. But there is an exception in this case also, that is the graphite, which is an allotrope of carbon. It is what, it is a good conductor of electricity. Why it is a good conductor of electricity? Because it contains only 4 electrons in its outermost shell, but out of 4 electrons the 3 electrons are used in the bonding while 1 electron is free. So due to this one free electron, graphite conducts the electricity. Now talking about the graphite, we are going to see the graphite in elaboration in the next chapter, that is the carbon and the compound. So remember here the graphite is what, graphite which is an allotrope of carbon, it is a good conductor of electricity. Now talking about the hardness, you all know that metals are what, metals are hard. You cannot bend the rod of iron. You require much more amount of force to bend a rod of iron. So here metals are what, metals are the hard, except for the sodium and the potassium. Sodium and potassium, they are also what, they are the metals, and they are so soft that they could be cut with a knife, that is the kitchen knife. That is by using a kitchen knife you can cut the sodium and potassium and the lithium metal, they are so soft. So the sodium and the potassium, which are soft metals but are not brittle, sodium and potassium are so soft that they can be cut with a knife. Now talking about the non-metals, non-metals are generally soft except for the diamond. You have known about the diamond and you have already studied in your previous classes that diamond is the hardest natural substance known to the mankind. So here we are talking about the hardness. Non-metals are simply what, non-metals are simply not hard, but diamond here, which is an allotrope of carbon, also it is the hardest natural substance. It is even harder than the most hard metals. So here it is an allotropic form of carbon, that is diamond, which is the hardest substance known to the mankind. Now talking about the next property, that is the sonority. So what is this sonority property, students? The sonority property is that property due to which the metals when hit by certain thing, they are going to produce a ringing sound. So metals are what? Metals are said to be the sonorous, that is, they make the noise when they are hit. Now, talking about the non-metals, non-metals are simply non-sonorous. So students, this was all about the physical properties of the metals and the non-metals. We have classified the metals and non-metals on various physical properties. So here you can see in this, that is, these are the foils of the gold, silver and the copper. So since the gold, silver and copper, that is the metals, these are the metals that are the malleable in nature, due to which the foils could be taking place. Here you can see, since chromium, that is very hard metal, due to which we are using it in the forming of the axle of a tire. Now here you can see the rings that are used in the jewelry, the gold, the iron rods, the copper bars, the platinum and the nickel. So these are some of the examples of the metal. So students, whatever we have learned in this particular, that is the physical properties of the metal and non-metals, let us just revise and you are going to enjoy this. So see this in this video over here.
Physical properties of metals and non-metals. Let us discuss the physical properties of metals. All metals exist as solids at room temperature. Example: iron, lead, zinc, and copper. Mercury is an exception. Metals are good conductors of heat. Silver and copper are the best conductors of heat, whereas lead and mercury are comparatively poor conductors of heat. Metals are good conductors of electricity also. This is the reason why electric wires are made of metals, like copper and aluminium. These wires are insulated with polyvinyl chloride, that is, PVC, or a rubber-like material, to avoid electric shocks. Some metals have the ability to be beaten into thin sheets. This property is called malleability, that is, metals are malleable. Gold and silver are the most malleable metals. Also, they have the ability to be drawn into thin wires, which is called ductility. Gold is the most ductile metal. Metals are generally hard, and its hardness varies from metal to metal. But metals like sodium and potassium are exceptions, as they can be easily cut with a knife. We find that metals, in their pure state, have a shining surface. This property is called metallic luster. For example, gold, silver, aluminium, and copper. Moreover, metals produce sound when they strike a hard surface. So, they are said to be sonorous. As such, school bells are made of metals. Metals generally have high melting and boiling points. For example, iron. Metals also have high densities, due to which they are heavy. For example, iron. Exceptions are sodium and potassium metals, which have low densities. Now, let us discuss the physical properties of non-metals. Non-metals are either solids or gases, for example, sulfur and oxygen. But bromine, being a liquid, is an exception. Non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity, for example, coal, which is a form of a non-metal carbon. But graphite, which is another form of carbon, is an exception, as it is a good conductor of electricity. Non-metals break easily, which means that they are brittle. Thus, non-metals are non-malleable and non-ductile, as they cannot be drawn into thin sheets or thin wires. Non-metals are generally soft. For example, sulfur. But diamond, which is a form of carbon, is extremely hard, and, hence, it is an exception. Non-metals, in their pure state, do not have a shining surface. This means they are not lustrous. For example, sulfur. Iodine, which is lustrous, is an exception. Also, non-metals are non-sonorous, as they do not produce sound. For example, sulfur, iodine, etc. Non-metals generally have low melting and boiling points. For example, sulfur. Except diamond, which is a non-metal, having high melting and boiling point. Non-metals have low densities, that is, they are light substances. For example, sulfur, whose density is 2 grams per centimeter cube, which is quite low. Hence, we can differentiate between the physical properties of metals and non-metals, as shown.
So students, I hope that you have enjoyed this video and you have learned more about the metals and the non-metals, that is their physical properties, with the animated diagrams and the videos. So now students, it's time to move in this next topic, that is the electronic configuration of metals and non-metals. So students, here you can see the electronic configuration of the metals. So here some of the metals are given, and here their atomic number along with their number of electrons that are present in the K shell, L shell, M shell and N shell. Students, you have already known in the class 9th, you have studied this, that this, suppose this is the nucleus, this is the first shell, second shell, third shell and fourth shell and so on. So the name of these shells are respectively, that is the K shell, which is present very close to the nucleus, L shell, M shell, N shell and so on. So I hope students that you have studied very clearly in your class 9 standard about the structure of the atom. So here talking about the sodium, the atomic number of sodium is 11, and since its atomic number, that is Z, it is equals to 11, and the atomic number is equals to number of protons present inside the nucleus, which is indirectly equal to what, that is the number of electrons in the atom. Why the atomic number is equals to the number of electrons? Because an atom is electrically neutral. So the number of electrons is equal to number of protons, and the number of proton is equal to the atomic number. So the atomic number is equal to number of electrons. So here for sodium, the atomic number is 11. It means that it have 11 electrons. So since 11 electrons are there, so how they are arranged in various shells? So the arrangement is 2, 8, 1. So here you can see this is the last shell or the outermost shell. The outermost shell is what? That is the outermost shell is that shell in which the electron is present in the ground state. So here this is the last electron which is present in the outermost shell, that is 1. So here you can see the sodium is having 1 valence electron or the outermost shell electron. Talking about the magnesium, magnesium having the atomic number of 12, its electronic configuration is 2, 8, 2. It have 2 valence electron in their outermost shell. The aluminium, that is having the atomic number 13, its electronic configuration is 2, 8, 3. So it have 3 electrons in its outermost shell. Now seeing some other examples, that is the potassium and the calcium. So talking about the potassium, its atomic number is 19, and since its atomic number is 19, its electronic configuration is 2, 8, 8, 1. So here you can see again the number of electron that is present in the outermost shell of the potassium is only 1. Talking about the calcium, its electronic configuration is 2, 8, 8, 2. So here you can see the 2 electrons are present in the outermost shell of the calcium atom. So what do you observe over here? We observe here that the metals have either 1, 2 or 3 electrons in their outermost shell or the valence shell. So this electronic configuration is important, that is the metals either having 1 electron, 2 electron or the 3 electron in their outermost shell. So just reading it out, that is the atoms of the metals have 1, 2, 3 electrons, that is 1, 2, 3 electrons in their outermost shell. Just for an example, you have seen that is the alkali metals, that is lithium, sodium, potassium in the previous example, while other are also known as the alkali metals, that is the alkali metals have 1 electron in their outermost shell, that is lithium having the configuration of 2, 1, sodium that is 2, 8, 1, potassium that is 2, 8, 8, 1. So here this is the outermost shell electron or the valence shell electron, which is equals to 1. Talking about the sodium, magnesium and aluminium, these are what? These are the metals having 1, 2 and 3 electrons respectively in their valence shell. Similarly, other metals having 1 to 3 electrons in their outermost shell. So metals generally have 1, 2 or 3 electrons in their outermost shell. So it may be noted, students. So this is also a very important, that is if we talk about the hydrogen having the atomic number 1, it is having the electronic configuration of 1. Talking about the helium, it is having the electronic configuration of 2. Its electronic configuration would be what? That is 2. So it is having 2 electrons, this is having 1 electron in their outermost shell. But these are what? These are the non-metals. They are not considered as the metal. So these are the exceptions. Talking about the boron, its atomic number is what? That is 5. So its electronic configuration is 2, 3. So it is also having 3 electron in the outermost shell. But still boron is not considered as a metal. It is considered as the metalloid. So these are what? These are the exceptions that do not follow this rule. That is metals should be having 1, 2 and 3 electron in their outermost shell. So here just reading this out, that is it may be noted that the hydrogen and helium are the exceptions because hydrogen is a non-metal having only 1 electron in the outermost shell, and helium is also a non-metal having 2 electrons in the outermost shell, that is the K shell. So students, this was all about the metals, that is the electronic configuration of metals. Now moving into the next slide, which is about the electronic configuration of the non-metal. So see over here that the atoms of the non-metals usually have 4 to 8 electrons in their outermost shell. So there are total number of 8 electrons that can be put in the outermost shell, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8. Not more than 8, not less than 1. So here in the outermost shell only 8 electrons could be placed, that is the maximum number of electrons that could be placed in the outermost shell, that if the shell is the outermost, then you can place only 8 electrons in there. So talking about the metals, metals having 1, 2 and 3 electrons in their outermost shell, while non-metals would be having 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 electrons in their outermost shell. This is written over here. So just for an example, you can see the carbon having atomic number 6, nitrogen having atomic number 7, oxygen having atomic number 8, fluorine having atomic number 9 and neon having atomic number 10. They have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 electrons in their outermost shell. You can check it by here on seeing, that is the element nitrogen, its atomic number is 7 and its electronic configuration, that is the arrangement of electrons in the various shells, that is K, L, M and the N shell. So here the 7 electrons are arranged like that is 2, 5. So here it has 5 electrons in their outermost shell. Talking about the oxygen, its atomic number 8. It is having the electronic configuration of 2, 6, that is it is having 6 electrons in its outermost shell. Talking about the fluorine, its atomic number is 9. Its electronic configuration is 2, 7, that is having 7 electrons in the outermost shell. Now phosphorus having the atomic number 15. It is having 2 electrons in the first shell, 8 electrons in the second shell and 5 electrons in the third shell or the outermost shell. The sulfur, you can see here, it is having 2 electrons in the first shell, 8 electrons in the second shell and 6 electrons in the M shell. The next example is about the chlorine. Atomic number is 17, 2 electrons in the first shell, that is K shell, 8 electrons in the L shell and 7 electrons in the M shell. So students, you have seen here, these are some of the non-metals that have what? That have 5 electrons, 6 electron, 5 electrons, 6 electron or 7 electron in their outermost shell. Now talking about generally the non-metals that should be having 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 electrons in their outermost shell. And there is an exception, that is the hydrogen and the helium. The hydrogen have only 1 electron in its outermost shell and that is the non-metal, while helium having 2 electrons in its outermost shell and that is also a non-metal. So student, this lecture is all about that we have studied till here. Now students, the time has come to move into the assignment. So in the exercise first, what you have to do, in the objective questions you have to complete from question 1 to 15 and in the subjective questions you have to complete from question 1 to 4. We will be dealing the objective type questions and taking them as we have taken in the first chapter, that is the synthetic clothing materials and polymers. Just like that, we are going to see here the objective type questions in the module discussions of this chapter at the very last. So now students, this is all about this particular lecture. Now students, we are going to meet you in the next lecture where we are going to deal with the chemical properties of the metals and the non-metals. Till then students, thank you all.